Yeah, definitely. There's certainly, levels to how these players have functioned in the league throughout, but I know many of these players are in it just to be able to play and to have fun and be a part of the community. So as we kick this race off, let us just say welcome once again as we get this thing going.
When you look at the 4 parties that we've got in front of us, well, we can talk about that later, but I was curious what you think of the choice of the fighter in particular.
Fighter makes for an interesting pick. It gives you tanky type, front end damage absorption. It comes at the cost of not being able to run. So we will see it depending on how many heavy hitters these players are going to encounter. Is going to determine whether or not the fighter is more suitable for front end roll rather than the thief or perhaps the second thief. One of the things we saw Cure 4 in the white magic shop, which is unfortunately not usable by anybody, as the tail, which is normally the item that garners the class change, is rendered useless in this seed, as it is called the useless thief and not the useless thief or ninja. So our players will not be class changing, and so upper level white and black magic spells will be prohibited for many of our players. Oh, all of them actually.
The good news is Fire 3 was available, and that is castable by red mages and black mages alike, so everybody will be picking up copies of that. And we've got relatively affordable heals. They were about 31 bucks, and cheap rapiers, well, regular price rapiers, really. They're giving those things away for 11 bucks, and that actually might be more than the vanilla cost, come to think of it. And finally, relatively well-priced silver swords, so we'll probably see one of those for that fighter, possibly for some red mages if they have some money to spend.
Yeah, if he manages to pick that fighter up, that fighter took one hit from a creep, and that was it. Also, in the northwest corner of Temple of Fiends, we have the TNT, so we've got an early TNT sighting.
Yeah, that does mean you're not going to need to go to Marsh Cave. Do you think anybody will? That would be the risky play tonight, right?
Yeah, and it's highly doubtful at this point you'll see any player really head over there. It's 10 treasure chests, and if you go at level, it's always a difficult endeavor. So I think if any of the players go there, it's probably going to be after they pick up their Mystic Key. Oh, and unfortunately, Sho Fukumachi is basically reset, but basically taking a wipe there after picking up his TNT.
Boy, that's tough luck. We were just talking about how he's got the luckiest party you could have. 2 thieves, 2 black mages, and he's unable to run away from a fight in Temple of Fiends. So it goes to show that all the prep work in the world can still let you down sometimes if you get unlucky.
Yeah, and Zarnak's managing to take out Garland by the skin of his teeth. That's going to garner him a free warp back to Canaria.
And Sho Fukumachi running into some trouble with zombies again.
The zombies seem to be a bit of a power hitter right now, as we've got Fuchsia taking out the pirates. Did the pirates have Stone Touch, or did one of his black mages encounter a Stone Touch before getting there?
We'll have to leave that question for the historians, but Fuchsia's got the ship, and now time to check out the shops in Provoca and see what we got here.
According to our wonderful tracker Melee Wizard, pirates had Glance, as we're kind of looking around. Fairly cheap gold bracelets in Canaria, too, $63.75. Don't know if they'll really have time to pick up, but it's good to see them that cheap.
Not so cheap was the maximum price bottle. Probably not going to be necessary, but if we don't find those caster items before Sea Shrine, we might have to double back and save up a lot of money. Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Sho taking another wipe to Thunder Bones, and he is giving up on Temple of Fiends for right now.
That's some pretty brutal luck. He came out with the highest expectations to try to take the race, and he's the only person we've seen so far wipe a couple times in Temple of Fiends.
Ooh, there's some expensive softs too, $11.50. So Fuchsia might be writing off that stoned black mage unless he comes up with a fairly solid gold count in the treasure chests, which we're going to look here in Batoya's Cave. There's about 2,700 gold in a pro ring.
Good old trusty pro rings. This is your public safety advisory. Pro rings are the best piece of hand armor in the game, bar none, equipable by all classes. Know it, remember it. Dependable pro rings, and you can buy them.
It's a good life pro tip there.
Every morning I wake up and remind myself, pro rings, best piece of hand armor in the game. So Sho taking some woodland encounters here. He's going to barbecue those wolves. He's probably had enough of wiping, and this is an opportunity to get a little bit of experience.
Oh, and Fuchsia's kind of getting taken to task a little bit by the blue pirates.
The friendly Kizokus are worth a fair bit of cash and are always a popular grinding spot back in the day for anyone that grew up playing this game, because they're an early game encounter that you can force by resetting your machine, powering it off, actually. And we'll see. Fuchsia, I believe, defeated them a couple times for the extra cash.
All right, and we will reward Nora by going ahead and plugging the follows early. If you certainly like what you see, by all means, feel free to give Randomania a follow if you haven't already. If you have, go ahead and give their auxiliary channels a follow as well. Much appreciated to Nora and all the work that the Randomania team do to get our league published on Twitch. Also, please feel free to follow our runners. Many of these runners do lots of these 8-bit randomizer and other retro old school games, so if this is the kind of content you like, they certainly enjoy bringing it to you. And I guess finally, in a little bit of shameless self-promotion, feel free to give us a follow as well. Nits always needs more followers, don't you, Nits?
Yes, I suppose I could use a couple more. That would get me all the way up to a couple, I think. Alright, Fuchsia making a second trip back to Temple of Fiends. Running into those pesky zombies that nobody has had a good time with so far. We had Lit 3 also available in Provoke. I feel I should mention that. That one is Black Mage only. So while Red Mages can cast Fire 3, they can't cast Lit 3. So all of our Red Mage party players tonight were happy to find the Fire 3 in Corneria, but they won't get much out of that Lit 3 in Provoke.
Yeah, and if Sho didn't need any more bouts of bad luck, 3 of his party members are stoned at the moment, so...
And Sahags have X-Fur and Sleep Touch. That is just a huge and unfortunate waste of time. So nothing too bad. Sho's got the worst of the bad luck. Everyone else seems to be getting along okay, but no caster items so far that we've seen, is there? In Future's inventory, I just see copper bracelets in that pro ring.
So far, we have not found anything yet, so be on the lookout. We've only really searched, 6 treasure chests at this point.
Yeah, if you caught one of the earlier seeds, there's practically a bullet race just a little while ago where there were like 3 items within the first 6 chests, and then it was just a tantalizing race for the 4th. The whole race took 33 minutes or something. Doesn't look like we're going to be that quick tonight.
Yes, and so we mentioned that there's really no need to do boss fights in this particular flag set, so there's no need to build a party around killing the fiends or killing chaos. There are 14 possible items one could pick up to fulfill the goal of having 4 usable items or, usable weapons or usable armors, with there being 8 weapons and 6 armors. Given that there are 14 total pieces of armor and 7 total treasure chests in Temple of Fiends Revisited, we know that there are, if every single item in Temple of Fiends Revisited was a usable item, that means there are still 7 items in the overworld. 4 have to be one or the other. So mathematically, no one needs to kill any fiends unless you need a quick escape or something like that.
The math checks out. That's excellent breakdown. Bottom line, you don't need to kill the fiends. Although, worst case scenario, you may have to check literally every last chest in the game remaining if you don't.
And who says you can't do math on Twitch?
Trenton usually says that.
And so now Sho is braving the Temple of Fiends once again with a lone Black Mage.
This is starting to get tragic. Entertaining, but tragic.
And all he has to do is come out with that TNT. Although, unfortunately for him, the soft potions are probably out of his price range. One of the guarantees about the Final Fantasy Randomizer shop randomization is that they will put softs in the first dungeon, or in the first town, I'm sorry. The one thing they don't guarantee is their price, and they usually start out pricey and then get randomized from there.
Sho now desperately running for the door with his Black Mage. He's got a couple more charges of Fire 3, but he gets out without any trouble. So finally, a little bit of fortune for him. Now he's going to try and solo Garland, getting even more risky.
What he doesn't realize is Garland does have a few hit points. We'll see if... okay, a couple Fire 3s takes him down.
Smugzug's going to pop into Dwarf Cave, picks up the Iron Armor, which he'll should be able to sell for cash. I don't think he has anyone in his party that can equip it. It's a fighter only. And he's going to...
We see Zarnax making the same mistake I've made 1,000 times, going right for the canal thinking you've already blown it up.
But he's going to have to double back and go speak with Narek to make that happen. That'll give him the chance to check those 2 chests, because he probably didn't do that either.
It's going to be very interesting to see the route divergences that our runners are about to take. We have Fire 3 and Lit 3 are basically our hinge spells this game at 1 and 2. It leaves a couple of things open, but also makes a couple of other things a little more difficult. Volcano is usually the go-to. It's the highest density of chests, but tackling things like the fires with Lit 3 can prove to be a tedious task. You can go Castle Ordeals, which is going to be great for experience. Many of the monsters are weak to fire, and if not, lightning will be sufficient. The problem is it only has 9 treasure chests. Ice Cave is probably going to prove too tough unless somebody really feels like that's the first place they want to go. It has 16 chests. Or, finally, one could go the Earth Cave, which proves to be kind of difficult, kind of lengthy on the chest check, but it is a total of 16 chests on the bottom floor, with the ease of having Fire 3 for the Undead and for the Earths, and Lit 3 for the Wizards. And so, it's going to be interesting to see where all of our runners end up going.
Yeah, that's an excellent breakdown of the possibilities, and there's some other things in play here too. We don't have the rod, so we can't do the entirety of the Earth Cave, and it's a bit of a walk to get to. As well, the Fire and Ice you have to canoe to. Ordeals is the quickest one to get to with the ship and the safest, so I could see that happening. It looks like Fuchsia's headed all the way around the world. He's going to go to Crescent Lake, and then we'll see from there where he heads.
Yeah, everybody's going to have to go to Crescent Lake first, unless you want the Earth Cave. If you want the Earth Cave, you can head there right away, but if you want to go anywhere else, you need the canoe from Crescent Lake. Fuchsia using Bane on the Pede, getting a lucky kill there.
Smug popping into Elfland to look at magic. Normally, this is something you would always do, but with Keep Permissions on, a lot of our runners are like, well, I got Fire 3 and Lit 3. There's not much for my Red Mage that I'm too excited about here. You're not going to be casting Exit, you're not going to be casting Warp, you're not going to be casting Life or any of the heal spells. It's just a huge tease coming here with the Red Mage and Keep Permissions on.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where I think this might be Smugzug's first or second race in the flag set, so that's just a matter of learning kind of how the Keep Permissions work. And so it's not just Keep Permissions, but it's Keep Permissions and the forbidden use of the tail.
Yeah, everybody's Red Mage already has their best spell with Fire 3, honestly, so the rest of it is just it's just gravy.
Yeah, because I think the best spell the Red Mages are going to get on the White Magic side is probably Heal 2.
No, they can't cast any of the heals, but maybe Cure 3? Yeah, I think so.
So that's one of those things that makes Red Mage a little difficult, and they are a little more beefier than your Black Mage, but they come with less luck, and so in many cases it's more important to run from fights than to actually take them on, and so Red Mage is maybe beefier and stockier, but it does require a little bit of luck and good placement to get like a Fire 3 at level 1.
Speaking of Fire 3, that's just what Zarnax used to take care of some EXPs, doing some grinding. This is where his party with the slightly more durable fighter and well, you can argue about the durability of thieves one way or the other, but seems to work out, and he's able to take down the Peds.
So Fuchsia grabs the canoe, and now Fuchsia's going to decide where he's going from there. It's either... I don't think... He's not a big fan of the Earth Cave, so it looks like it might be Castle Ordeals first. It's either be Castle Ordeals or Ice Cave. We'll see where he goes. Looking like Castle Ordeals, so he's going to get some valuable experience and a slightly smaller amount of chests. We'll see if the gamble / mini grind pays off.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the notion that Ice was just too hard, and Fire 3 is not useful enough in the Gurgu Volcano. So Ordeals is where your fire magic is actually going to do extra damage, and I think that's the play.
Yeah, because if you can come out of here at 12, you're probably setting yourself up to be able to at least check everything throughout the rest of the game. The only area you're really going to have some difficulty are checking what's behind the fire chests in Volcano at this point.
And we have our first very clear divergence. Smugzug is headed to Earth. Earth's the easiest one to get to, and it's where you're supposed to go in the vanilla game after clearing the canal and stopping into Melman for supplies. He's only going to be able to get halfway down because he doesn't have the rod, but he might find it in here, you never know. And moreover, there are some chests to check, so let's see what we find.
Yeah, definitely. There are 16 chests in the first 3 floors of the Earth Cave, and with Fire 3, you can get past the Earth trap tiles, so it's really not a bad play to check, and especially if you're... it's better than Marsh Cave in that it's more level appropriate with less ambush mobs, and so you can actually gain a couple of levels out of this as well.
The danger here is we've got the potential for the unrunnable wizards that can strike, and without lit of any sort, they're resistant to fire. They could be really tough on his party, so hopefully for him, he doesn't run into any.
Oh, and I don't know if he meant to, but Smugzug's taking the Earth Trap tile now to see what's going on there. Unfortunately, it's waxed one of his rib mages, and he's opted out. He just picked up a canoe, so it's probably a good way to go.
I think that was actually intentional because he had already opened the chest and then turned them on the tile. I think you wanted to see how hard the earths were before he got too deep.
And that's pretty fair.
Yeah, and he learned they are one-shotting his red mages at this point, which is hard enough.
Yeah, and that's gonna unless he manages to overcome, that's gonna cost him 4 treasure chests if he cannot clear those earths. He does find a ribbon, however. Unfortunately, the ribbon does not provide a whole lot of absorb rating.
Fuchsia's working his way through Ordeals, spots a couple of zombies, and that's exactly what we were talking about with Fire 3 being the spell you want for this place. There's a lot of undead in here, and of course it's all vulnerable to fire.
Yeah, and if it's not the undead vulnerable to fire, it's things like Medusas or otherwise that are, just as susceptible to lightning magic.
Looks like both Sho and Zarnax are going to do some Pede grinding. They look pretty easy to force because I've been seeing lots of them. I haven't kept too close of tabs on exactly where they are in the encounter table, but I've seen my fair share, so I know that they must be doing something to make them turn up more than usual.
The thing that makes it interesting is that they have Trance, and so it's going to be a little troublesome for Zarnax if his Black Mage gets stunned, because it seems to be his primary source of damage at the moment. But there's also not a bad way to go if you happen to want to go Volcano first.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, we've got the crown in Ordeals, and that's just the sort of thing you'd like to find. The crown leads to the key, and the key leads to a ton of chests. And ideally, you can get your hands on the floater so you can zoom around and pick them up all the faster, but this might be tempting either way. Yeah,
it's a little bit of a slog. There's the Bane Sword, too. It's going to be a little bit of a slog because you have to sail into the island and everything, or into the lake and everything to turn in the crown chest. That's the one part that makes it a bit tedious, and so we call it kind of taking the crown bait because it's definitely faster to do when you have the floater. Any time spent traveling is time spent not checking treasure chests. Even if there are a bunch of free chests on the other side of it, someone could just as easily check Volcano and find all 4 items in the time it took you to get back from Matoya's cave.
Absolutely. The only way this is a huge, easy win is if either it's a game-winning move and there's enough caster items that you win outright, or if you find the floater key locked, because obviously that's a possibility, and if that's the case, you're going to be ahead.
So we've got Zarnax heading for the volcano, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Like I said, if all you have is Fire 3 and Lit 3, many of the encounters are going to be fine, but it's just those fire-guarded chests are really going to be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, Volcano almost always the conventional play, even if you don't have the appropriately elemental magic to deal with what you're going to encounter here. It is dense with chests, and those enemies are usually not too bad. Fires are, of course, pretty hard, but if you have any way of taking them down, you can score so much loot without too much effort.
And Zarnax is unfortunately passing up this Paralisk fight. If he could drop that Lit 3, the 5 Paralisks are actually worth a fair amount of experience. So here we go. We have not found a usable item yet, but he is currently in the armory checking the densest packed group of chests on this side of the world.
He's got some flame armor for his fighters, a nice place to start. That'll be more useful against ice attacks than will be against fire, but with enemies' skills and scripts shuffled, you never know what you're going to get thrown at you. So
there's the ruby.
Curious. The ruby bait is even worse than the crown bait.
Yeah, so the ruby bait gets you 12 treasure chests, 4 in Titan's Tunnel, and then the 8 in the B4 of Earth. So if the floater's down there and Zarnax takes the bait, Zarnax technically has a lead based on sort of the progression, or the perceived progression. Of course, you could find the 4 items in the bottom of Volcano without having to check Earth. Who knows?
Yes, it is very curious that we found a couple of teaser items, the crown and the ruby, that both themselves lead to progression in different ways, when the one that the players are always looking for is the floater, because it makes life so much simpler. However, having found either the ruby or the crown now, we know that the floater could be locked by either the Mystic Key, or behind the Titan in the Titan's Tunnel, or in the bottom of Earth Caves, so we might need to do this.
2 interesting notes. Fuchsia is going through his mental habit and skipping over the canoe river tiles despite having the canoe, as he's heading towards Matoya's cave to turn in the crystal. And the other is Zarnax struggling with those red gargoyles. So far, we're drawing up nothing right here. So if I'm hoping for something trolly, I'm kind of hoping for a densely packed floating fortress or a deep sea shrine run.
Yeah, all we got so far is the Bane Sword, right?
Yes, and, we have one weapon is the Bane Sword, and that was in Castle Ordeals.
Sho was using more of a reset out strategy, running to the distant chests. Didn't find what he liked on the left half of this room. Now he's checking, I think, one of the last couple that he's missed so far on the second floor. The second floor of Volcano is just the place to be if you're looking for chests. Some of them are a little further away, but with the armory and all that, you can't beat it. Still, not much this round to be excited about, except for that tantalizing ruby. We'll see if either player that finds it takes the bait here. Smugzug now looks like he's headed to ice, which is a bold move, Cotton. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, and Zarnax heading for the bottom of Volcano, which is not a bad play. There's a lot of chests down there. The one downside is without a warp or an exit, he has to make his way out if he finds anything good.
Yeah, unlike some seeds where maybe you look elsewhere to see if you can get that warp or that exit before you commit to something like this, that's a similar thing that happens in the Marsh Cave, or if you can find warp, it makes Ice Cave much easier. In this seed, you don't have to have that in the back of your mind, because you're never going to get to cast warp or exit.
And Zarnax is actually in a bit of trouble. He is out of heal potions on a deep volcano dive.
At this point, it's more of a suicide dive if he keeps pushing forward.
Yeah, if he finds anything, he's just going to have to relegate to coming back for it after he has 3 of something else. Scouting's not a terrible thing. It's just, unfortunately, if you go down there and come out with nothing, then you have nothing to show for it. So, the only way that works is if you somehow manage to then immediately diverge your route to somewhere else and go and scout. But so far, seemingly Bupkis in the bottom of Volcano.
Well, Smugzug scampers through the first couple floors of ice without too much trouble. Those wraiths are hitting pretty hard, but you have to appreciate this party is pretty low level too.
Yeah, huge amount of risk. Okay, we have a Zeus Gauntlet sighting.
Now that's frustrating because his party's hanging by a thread at this stage. I don't think he's really seriously considering escaping, so now it's really just what else is down here. I'll come back for that Zeus if I need it later sort of plan.
Yeah, that's got to be what he's got to do at this point, is he's got to assume that he has at least one armor where he knows where it is. And so far, he's, at least of the featured runners on the stream, he's the only one that knows that that's there. But at this point, I would go ahead and route diverge. I'd find somewhere else to go, because you don't have a whole lot of heal potions at this point. You wouldn't survive another dive.
All right, so Fuchsia's got his Mystic Key. I unfortunately missed what he may have gotten out of the Elfland Castle, but he is now heading to Corneria, which has another hall of chests.
So here's an interesting play. He's going to check Castle Corneria, Temple of Fiends, and then Dwarf Cave. At this point, you have access to all of the chests in Marsh Cave and some levels to overcome the obstacles in it. Do you check Marsh Cave at this point?
Marsh Cave is so vast, and its basement floor chests are so spread out. I don't know.
So far, Fuchsia only has a Bane Sword. Does he assume there's a lot in Volcano, or does he assume that perhaps there's not a whole lot out there?
Now, those items got to be somewhere. You mentioned that. He didn't get much of anything exciting in Corneria Castle. He's going to check out Temple of Fiends now. I can see it. I can see it, especially with the key.
So now we got Sho picking up his Zeus Gauntlet. So now Sho is at 1 of 4 on his armors. We have Fuchsia at 1 of 4 on the Bane Sword. And here come those Thunder Bones.
And let's not trivialize, yes, he did find 1 of 4 items that he needs to win. He also found a legitimately darn decent caster item that can turn his thief into a killing machine. That Lit 2 spell is going to cut through a lot of the enemies here that don't have lightning resistance, so a very useful tool.
Fuchsia has noped out of Temple of Fiends, and so he is moving on to the Dwarf Cave with Thunder Bones. That actually makes you wonder if you should do Marsh. Bones are a semi-common encounter down there.
Oh, Sho turns up the Mass Moon. Not a caster item, but a good one. Doesn't look like he... Did he forget to equip it, or did I just glaze over?
You glazed over it, he's got it.
I glazed over it like that. That would have been something, but no, he knows what he's doing.
All right, so here comes the Dwarf Trove for Fuchsia. The Defense Sword, that puts him at 2 of 4 weapons. And the Wizard Staff, that puts Fuchsia at 3 of 4 weapons right now.
Now I like Marsh, because you don't have to get out if you find the winning item. You can just save, and if you don't find anything, just reset out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can dive wherever you want at this point, especially when it's 3 out. If it's 3-2, like I've seen, and this happened in I think the very first race, many of our runners were 3 and 2, and the 2 being armors, and they dove somewhere, and it ended up being 2 armors. So at this point, if you're 3-0, you probably don't have to worry about finding any armors.
Smug gets past some wizards. Looks like he's taking another crack here.
And Fuchsia's going to check Northwest Castle real quick. Stand by on his next route.
Yeah, this could be the game if he finds a weapon.
Oh, wow, and there it is.
And that'll do it. Well, 29-ish. We'll wait for the official time.
Yep, I got it right here. It is actually right on the button, 29 minutes.
Look at that. I believe that's a stage record. It might not be, but it's It's the fastest one I've seen, and it's a
he had
heck of a time.
He had a fairly strong finish a couple of races ago where 3 of the 4 weapons were in the volcano, and then the 4th weapon was in the Titan's Trove because the floater was also in the volcano, and I think that was like a 24-minute finish.
Well, it's not going to be Show's race, and so he'll have one last chance to clear his Chaos Point in Stage 7.
So just to make you awares of where they were, Files, the Bane Sword as well as the Crown were in Castle Ordeals. The Mage Staff was in Crown Locked Northwest Castle. The Defense Sword and the Wizard Staff were in Crown Locked Dwarf Cave.
And just like that, it's all over.
It's all over but the crying.
That's why they call it the kiss and cry at the end of the figure skating.
Yep, that was some fairly solid decision making on Fuchsia's part, you know, and that's something that it doesn't surprise me, especially to make that play, just because, like I said, with the spell set and sort of how that game sort of progressed, that's not a decision I wouldn't have made, you know. So definitely GG to Fuchsia for making the right call on that one. And certainly we'll try and get him here in the next couple of minutes here, and we'll get his thoughts on this particular seed.
All right, Show's finished with Volcano. And of course runs into a Hydra on the river. Anyone who has played this, yeah, of course, it one-shots one of his thieves.
Hail Hydra. Question chat. All they have to do is find 4 weapons. It is actually either 4 weapons or 4 armor. Either or, not a combination of the two, but rather 4 of one or 4 of the other.
That can be used to cast spells in battle. That's important. They have to be the caster items that you can use as items to cast spells. In this case, the Bane Sword casts Bane. The Mage Staff casts Fire 2. The Defense Sword casts Ruse. And the Wizard Staff casts Confuse.
Other than that, since none of our runners, well, we've got Zarnax in Castle Ordeals. All he has right now is knowledge of the Zeus Gauntlet, and that Zeus Gauntlet, as he did not make it out of the bottom floor of Volcano, all he has is the knowledge of where the Zeus Gauntlet is. Show, I believe, came out with the Zeus Gauntlet in the bottom of Volcano, and Smug has come out of Ice, and I absolutely missed everything that was in there.
There was mostly death in there for poor Smugsug. He took a couple runs at it.
All right, so we are now joined in chat by Fuchsia. Fuchsia, that was a fairly solid decision-making in what seemed like a fairly obvious play.
Well, thanks. I don't know if it was obvious to go to Ordeals, but I kind of messed up and didn't have cabins or heal potions, so we know it's the place to go. And I found the crown. I got pretty lucky.
I think we say obvious, and it's not necessarily on a chest density ratio, but rather on an ease of passing through it. And certainly Fire 3 at level 1 gives you a lot of ease of taking out the undead that are there. Lit 3 at 2 also allows you to take out the things that are not undead. So it ended up being a fairly solid play.
I didn't get Lit 3. I didn't have money for it because I did Provoke Us first.
Nevertheless, no, that was a solid choice. And then taking the crown bait because all those guaranteed chests for completing the key quest, which is pretty easy to do even at low level, works out.
Yeah, I kind of figured that I'm on this path. I got the crown. I might as well, go where on this path, follow the breadcrumbs, and it paid off. I mean, it was really lucky that Dwarves had 2 weapons, and then Northwest Castle had the third, and Ordeals had the fourth, or first.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's disputing that there was some fortune there. It was just sort of the decision that led you to Ordeals that really kind of played it all out for you. I was going to ask, did you take on the crown quest? Of course you'd like to find the winning items or whatever, and you did. But were you kind of hoping for something else, like maybe the floater that would just like blow the door wide open too?
Yeah, I mean, floater, even slab would be fairly useful to have because, you know, Mirage. I thought this game would go on pretty late, actually. But, yep, all the items just fall in my lap.
Yeah, it was sort of a harsh start. It didn't have, you know, anything early. Like some of the other races earlier on in the stage have just like been dealing out the items. So this one seemed like it was going to be a departure, and then all of a sudden, boom, they just all dropped on you.
So has anyone on stream gone to Volcano yet?
Yep, and all that's down there is a Zeus Gauntlet in B4. So Volcano is definitely not the play this game. The Ruby's in the Armory, but other than that, Volcano has a whole lot of nothing. And now we have Ali Gerbrap finishing in second place. He's an off-stream runner. We actually are streaming a handful of runners off-screen at the moment. Ali Gerbrap has crossed the finish line in second place with an SRL time of 35:15. We'll see if we can get his take on the race.
Yeah, the Mass Moon was also in Volcano in the Agama Grind chest area, one of those two. And the Ruby was in there, which could have been a huge tease. We have no idea if the floater's Ruby locked yet. We haven't seen anybody pick it up.
And so right
the
now,
the trolliest item.
It sure is.
Right now, all we have is the Zeus Gauntlet in Lower Volcano. There's nothing else anywhere except if you've gone Castle Ordeals, gotten the crown. There's the floater in Marsh Cave. That's a very interesting pickup.
Just an easy one right on the top floor of Marsh Cave. That is funny.
Had I not won, I would have gone to Marsh and cleared that out.
That was our hunch, so it's going to be. That's what I was going to ask you. Actually, we were gambling. Like, now that he have the Mystic Key, does he now make that play to the Marsh Cave? So I guess the answer was yes.
Yeah, I think that seeing it was funny because you went to Temple of Fiends and saw the Bone Thunders, and I think that probably influenced your decision of, nah, not going Marsh.
Oh yeah, that was something I should have considered, but I figured maybe I can do it, maybe not.
Show just sort of casually saunters out of the Marsh Cave. I think he's ready to hang it up tonight. He already has a .05 in this stage, and he's definitely 5% of the time has passed. In fact, it's been more like 20%.
Yeah, every minute I think is a .02 or something like that from here on.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have gone to Marsh. I would have just gone to Earth. Yeah, and you know what I say, friends don't let friends dive Earth, but I don't know if anyone's done that yet.
All right, so now we are joined in chat by second place finisher Ali G. Ali G, how did that go for you?
It went well, honestly. I don't know if Fusha did the same thing as I did. I going to Ordeals early.
Yes, that is what he did. And then did you complete the crown quest after that?
That's what I did. And after that, I was like, okay, where do I check? So everything was like, because like I didn't feel going to Volcano because you didn't have ice in the first floor because I checked level 4. Like ice was level 6, I think. So I don't think I would have tried to go there because fires. I go to Earth, Ordeals, or Ice, and I chose Ordeals because I think it's a quick check, and it's not as like Ice would be.
Well,
like,
unfortunately,
Yeah. And so you found the Banesword and Ordeals, and then everything else came with the key after that, right? The 2 in the Dwarf Cave, and where was the 4th item now?
they were in Northwest Castle, Mage's Staff.
Right, that's right.
I'm kind of surprised that I don't know if a lot of people did the same.
No, the Ordeals play didn't seem to happen on stream besides Fuchsia, so the idea wasn't as popular as we had a hunch it might be.
Yeah, Zarnax is now getting through to the Ordeals quests, and so unfortunately for Show, finding the floater could divert him away from Castle Ordeals. So We're going to be interested to see how these runs end up finishing. On paper, the Ordeals play was good, because even if you came out with nothing, it was a great place to get levels with Fire 3 at 1, Lit 3 at 2. And then, coincidentally, it was also a good play because it had the crown and a weapon and led you right to the other 3.
We'll see if Zarnax tempts fate with the Temple of Fiends or if he heads over to Dwarves and Northwest Castle. Looks like he's going to dance with the Thunderbones. Now Show frantically scouring Cardia. It's a natural choice after you get the airship. So many free chests here, but we know this isn't a guaranteed way to win. So we'll see if he gets lucky and finds some armors maybe, because most of those things are still completely AWOL.
Yeah, we still only found the Zeus Gauntlet to this point. And I mean, that supersedes any other weapons or armor. We've only found the 4 that got Fuchsia the Win and the Zeus Gauntlet.
Did the show keep the Zeus Gauntlet? Walk it out?
I'm pretty sure he did. We were kind of looking other ways. I think you were digging your crown chests at the time, so that was a little more interesting. We know that Zarnax went down there for it, but wiped on his way out and then did not go back for it. So Zarnax at least knows it's down there. Show knows it's down there. I just don't know if he came out with it. Oh, bad news for Show, or potential bad news for Show. He's taking a second dive into the Marsh Cave.
At this point, he's got to be scratching his head a bit. How did people finish so fast when I have found so little? And the answer is that darn Ordeals play.
I wouldn't have done Ordeals if, my heal potion situation were better.
What would you have done instead, out of curiosity?
Volcano. That's like the go-to.
Yeah, I think many would have struggled with the fires. That actually would have been the thing that kept me away from Volcano in this seat if I were playing. Just trying to figure out how to get over the trap tiles.
With Lit 3, it's doable, and 3 Black Mages, it's doable, so I guess if I had done Temple of Fiends first, which I usually do, I probably would have done Volcano, and I'd be scratching my head, and then someone would have finished, and I'd be like, what the crap?
Here's a quick question for you. Would you have dove B4, regardless of your heal potion situation?
Oh, definitely. I would have cleared out Volcano, except maybe the Red Dragon chest.
Yeah, it looks like your party also was helping you out. You had lots of extra charges of fire and lit. Well, not lit in this case, but you could have. And the ability of you gotta appreciate that when you have 3 Black Mages instead of 2, that's one more person that might get that hero cast off at the start of the battle, and that's something that can be really helpful when everyone's just trying to run away.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, Show only coming out with a ribbon, and he's just resetting that Marsh Cave, and he's going to move on.
Zarnax picks up his mage staff, and that should, I think, do it. He's going through things in his head here. He's like, wait a minute, I think I might have this. And there, he's got it.
All right. So that is Zarnax, who has finished in 3rd place with an official SRL time of 43:21.
And this may be the first time that we're completely wrapped up in under an hour with the standing first place time of 29 minutes. I'm a math major, and I'm pretty sure that means that we can lock it down at 58 minutes.
We can lock it down. Some of our players may play this one out for pride. Show has now entered the Earth Cave in a seemingly desperation move.
We haven't seen too far in here. We know the first floor is nothing spectacular except for a ribbon in the bottom right corner, I believe.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, I think the airship actually pushes people away from ordeals, given the more difficult travel time from where you have to land the airship. It's a little more attractive at sea, maybe seemingly despite perhaps the same distance that you have to travel over water, but the water encounter table, for some reason, lets players believe it's a really easy travel anyway. I'm honestly not sure, but I know that if I had the airship at this point, Ordeals is probably the last place I go. I expect him to go ice at some point really, really soon.
I hope it's not ice. I don't know what's in ice.
A lot of pain and misery so far.
Yeah, Smug took a couple runs at it, but it wasn't working out.
So 29, and then half of 29 is what? 15 to 14 and a half. So
yeah.
We've already crossed the 0.5 mark. Now, the rune sword just happens to be a coincidental pickup. I don't remember exactly where it was, but they didn't really have time to sell things, and so whatever accrues in their inventory accrues in their inventory.
Rune sword was in Elfland Treasury.
Oh, and to answer the question from Chad, Eva Bobby, yes, they are racing to collect 4 caster items, either 4 weapon or 4 armor. In this case, it was definitely 4 weapons, and you had to assign them all to a thief. So you also had to have a thief in your party to do that. And that's what everyone that has won so far has done, and that's what everyone that is still playing is yet trying to do. Smugzug now in Volcano, which we know is pretty much dried up except for a Zeus gauntlet. Although he doesn't seem to have long to live in here. He's got 3 party members and only one of them has more than a single health.
Yeah, that's the one downside to the heal potion situation.
Yeah, he's had enough of that. Show into the second floor of Earth.
It's kind of crazy to me that we still have only found 5 items so far.
Just at a nasty spot in the encounter table with fight after fight here. Alright, and now we have the room with the double earth trap tiles. One on the way in, and then the same one on the way out. Earths are conveniently weak against fire, though, so this shouldn't be too bad.
Now he's going to mow him down easily. Shows party reaching level 7 at the 47.5-minute mark.
The lofty heights, level 7. Just what you'd expect in a proper scavenger hunt race. Looking ahead, for show, he'll have one more chance to clear his chaos point on Saturday, and then we'll be... Oh, sorry.
No, actually, this is Show's last race. Show is unavailable to race this weekend, so this was Show's last chance, at least according to him earlier.
Well, either he's going to have to make time, or he's going to have to accept his tragic .05. The reality is that running the table in the Stage 8 and winning every single race to come in first was probably not going to happen one way or the other, but now we'll never know.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm relegated to my .21, and I'm satisfied doing commentary at this point.
Well, over the 8 times 2 weeks, about 2-month-long league we've had, it's been an incredible showing from everyone near the top, yourself included, and it's been a lot of fun to call these races along the way. If you think that this stage is a bit gimmicky and you're like, we want chaos, we want the cup, I think everyone understands that. There was just a couple of really experimental stages. The rest of the league has been pretty straightforward about taking down chaos, and that's exactly what we're going to return to, starting with Midnight Madness for Stage 8, and that'll be coming up Monday midnight in the morning, so to speak, on the East Coast.
Yeah, and that's going to be our Show Some Class final stage. It is a standard open selection party. That is aside from the first round where it was core forced. This is a completely open, select your own party. Low experience, low boost, and you must find and use the tail. So it's going to be a chaos kill in addition to a full-on treasure hunt. So it kind of combines some of the aspects of other stages of our league. And definitely pits our races to some of the most interesting challenges.
It also has the early bridge turned off, and it's about as vintage of a Final Fantasy randomizer race as you can get. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to really bring it back to the bare bones of the game and sort of like may the best player win. I'm really looking forward to it as being the final capstone for this league. If you've been following our beta stream or any of the other action going on in Final Fantasy Randomizer, you probably have heard of the NPC shuffle. There's been a lot of players helping us beta test it. Everyone in the community. It's been sort of an open beta. Some names in the Twitch streaming scene have been helping out. It's been a lot of fun, and that is going to be launching very shortly, in time for the end of the league and in time for the upcoming spring tournament. But moreover, it really changes the routing and it changes the feel of Final Fantasy Randomizer quite a bit. You're going to see a much different game in FFR 2.0 and going forward than you get here with 1.6.4. Just the predictability of all the quest items is thrown out the window, and the routing just changes dramatically. So this final stage 8 race, sorry, just to finish the thought, will really be sort of a last of its kind as far as FFR is concerned, and it'll be sort of just another way to play going forward when NPC Shuffle becomes something very popular, I hope.
Yeah, and as somebody who's played NPC Shuffle very extensively, I absolutely love the changes that are going to be forthcoming. It makes the game even more random and even less linear than it already is. You want to see the Dwarf Cave right out the gate? Let's do it. You want to see Ice Cave as the first dungeon? Let's do it. And so it definitely makes the choices more interesting. It makes the routing more interesting. And in my opinion, it makes the game a whole lot more interesting. So I'm definitely excited to see that when that comes around in the tournament. At this point, you see on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, Smugzug has thrown in the towel. He has called it a night. He is tired of getting slammed around, and so he is throwing in the towel. So GG to him, and we'll see if Show can finish this one out. Question chat is changing where the dungeon shuffle is not in the game yet. It is not in the beta yet, but it is being discussed, and I believe the Nitz, you can comment on that.
Yeah, we've been playing around with entrance shuffle. I think the question from the chat is, it doesn't change where the dungeons are located. What it changes is what items you receive from NPCs for completing quests. So right now, the king will always give you the bridge, and the princess will always give you the loot, and after defeating the pirates, Bicky gives you the ship, and so on. Those are the things that are getting shuffled. So the king might give you Masamune, and you might find the bridge in a box, and there are some map edits that allow you to walk to the Dwarf Cave right off the bat. That is commonly enabled, so you can go visit our friends over in the Dwarf Cave, loot those 2 chests. They might have the canoe in them, because you're not going to get it from the canoe stage necessarily anymore. So from the Dwarf Cave, you could canoe down to the Northwest Castle. And if you found the crown early on, you can return it to the kindly old king on your way to Elfland. And if you think that's crazy, that is just one of the possible routes you may experience in the NPC Shuffle. You can play that right now at beta.finalfantasyrandomizer.com, and within a couple weeks, it'll be commonplace, hopefully on finalfantasyrandomizer.com. And the traditional routing, by turning the NPCs off, will always exist as an option, but will be probably considered like Final Fantasy Randomizer Classic, and will be something that people will do when they want to throw it back to what we're watching tonight. The next. Yep, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to answer the question in chat. Will NPCs still have the incentive items? That is actually optional. They can have incentive items, or they can have regular chest items.
Yeah, there was a significant rewriting of sort of the reward code that was done to allow NPCs to dish out just about anything. Sometimes they can be incentivized so that instead of, one quest item, they give you another. Maybe instead of the key, the prince upon waking up will give you the floater, for example. Or they can be unincentivized, in which case everything becomes like a random chest, and the prince wakes up and gives you, $200 for the rune sword or some piece of junk. You're like, thanks for nothing, elf prince. So all of those become flags, and it becomes a totally wide open game with all kinds of routing complications and sophistication for the next sort of generation of Final Fantasy Randomizer racers to master.
Yeah, definitely. And one of my favorite things is one of my very first games that turned in the bottle and got Excalibur, and I was wondering why some watery tart threw a sword at me.
Some moistened bit loved a scimitar at me. Yeah, you got it.
And so Sho has made it all the way down to the bottom of Earth, and I still don't think he has found anything. Which is very interesting. We are 3 minutes out from the 1.0 mark.
It's like he knew where the items were and just went everywhere else. Some of the worst luck I've ever seen in what he has found based on where he has gone.
And there's the power gauntlet.
So close. With a mere 2 minutes left before 1.0. It's not looking like he'll be able to get anything else.
Yeah, definitely not at this point. Even if he decides to get out with his power gauntlet, they'll give him 2 armors, no weapons, and a whole lot of crying. And I think it actually looks like Sho is our last runner on or off stream.
That's gotta be
He is literally deleting everything in his inventory at this point.
We're gonna say he's halfway there.
He's
living on a prayer.
Definitely living on a prayer. Yep.
Are we going to go see him take down Lich in his last minute here? Do it. At this point, he's just playing his own game. The rest of us are just along for the ride. Yep. He's got 1 more minute.
Gonna get that swag point. Well, as we watch Sho about to semi-struggle against...
now he's just getting trolled.
Here. We still have Ali G and we got Fuchsia in the chat here still. Ali G, do you got any final thoughts? Are you done? Or are you going to take a part in the last chance for romance race on Saturday?
I'm not sure. Probably if I have the time, but it will depend if I'm not busy at that time. If not, I'm going to be in this race.
That time
I can't wait for around 8.
4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. That is 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, 1 Pacific. Fuchsia, any other final thoughts? Are you in Saturday?
The goal is to kill Lich?
His goal was, sometimes all you can do is watch the world burn. Any final thoughts, Fuchsia? Looking ahead to stage 8?
I'm really looking forward to stage 8. I'm glad to have a Kill Chaos goal again. Glad to show off the promoted female sprites if I ever get aired on stream.
I'm going to touch base with our organizers and find if we're going to follow Sho to the end of the world here, or if we're going to...
I actually know what we're doing.
Oh, well, I don't have to do anything. I'll just consult with our organizers.
No
Sportsundo, what are we doing?
No, I mean, if you've got any final thoughts, feel free to drop them here, because we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here shortly.
Alrighty, my final thoughts are that I feel terrible for Sho. He came in here with one thing in mind. Nothing was going to do except for first place, and he had some of the worst run of luck and routing misfortune that I've ever had the pleasure of watching. So while it might not have been entertaining for him, it was a lot of fun for the rest of us. So thanks to Sho, GG to Fuchsia, and we'll see everybody next time.
So thanks again to Nora. Thanks to our Randomania for doing our league race. Thanks to Death Star 175 for the restream. Thanks to Melee Wizard for doing the tracking. Thanks to my commentator Nitz. It is always a pleasure to do this commentary with you. For our penultimate race, GG to Fuchsia Fantasy in first place yet again. It's always great to see these races. It's always great to see what other players are doing. If you like what you see, like I said, give Randomania and its auxiliary channels a follow. Feel free to join us on the Discord that is also posted in there. We love having new players. We are in new player chat all the time, helping out and getting people plugged in and ready to go, and especially looking forward to 2.0 and to the spring tournament coming up. So we're still working on the format. If you join us on the Discord, April the 20th is the last chance to vote on your favorite preferred style of the tournament. Feel free to help us in the community decide what you want to see for this spring tournament. Excuse me, and I'm like getting to the end of my thought process here as we're still watching Sho sort of struggle with this. We're going to bid farewell to Sho, and we're going to actually kick this over to Geyer for some more Final Fantasy Randomizer action. So for Nitz, my co-commentator, I've been Sforzondo. It has been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night, everyone.
Good night.